with how high the stock market is and all of the money coming from AI, there was this report that just came out that said $300 billion is going to go back into the economy. And the reason that made me even more of a bear is I realized they nominated someone, but he still has to like go through
Senate
approval and everything else.
Yes, but there's never been a time where they said no. So,
except for right now, we'll see.
Maybe.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to Collecting Keys. I'm Mike DeHaan here with my co-host Dan Austin and Dylan Cook. Rounding out January today, recording this on the 30th. So hopefully you guys had a good first start to the year. And I'm sure that statistically, at least 70% of you have given up on your New Year's resolutions. So sorry, sucks to suck, I guess.
I'm in that statistic.
It's probably more than 70, honestly, if you look at it.
I will say the gym has gotten less crowded lately.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
No, don't be hating on those people. They're trying. It's addiction. It's like they're addicted. They're just in the early stages of it. And they're trying to overcome something, but they can't. So maybe next year will be the year that they finally break through and get healthy.
15th try, 15th time's the charm. They've been trying to get back in shape since they are 25. This year they turned 40 and now it's rough.
It's a disease, man. It's a disease.
It's a disease. Hey, I will never, ever hate on somebody that's like at the gym actually putting in effort. I will only hate on the person who talks about all the effort they're putting in that they're not actually putting in, which is a lot of people.
Totally. Yeah.
So, they're literally there for like 10 minutes to take their Instagram post and then head out.
Yeah. Or they talk about they're dieting, but then you see them ordering a cheeseburger at lunch. Like, fucking come on, dude.
You know what, though? I don't care if it's a fat dude doing that, honestly, because it's like, you know what? You're living that life. It's the skinny 23-year-old that's talking about how hard they're working. I'm like, no, you're not working hard. You're skinny and you're 23.
Yeah. Well, I don't care if they do that in general, as long as they don't pretend like they're not and then complain about it. Like people are free to do whatever they want. I really don't care. And it's funny. I was, we'll start with this. I just spent the past week at a GoBundance event in Breckenridge, Colorado. And it's always really interesting when you're in this dynamic. So if you're not familiar with GoBundance, it's like a men's group that has entrepreneurs, real estate people. We talk about it here a lot. Go look it up. It's just a fake, stupid, made up word. Just abundance with a G-O in the front.
And removing the A.
Yeah, I'm removing the A. But when you go to stuff like that, there's always such a wide range of personalities that are there. People that are very sort of like type A, people that are very type B, people that are very religious, people that are not, people that are very successful and have kind of made it. People are trying to figure it out. And then along the health spectrum or something else too. It's always so interesting to watch the social pressures unfold with people around the meal sessions that they do. You're watching people at what they get on their plate, or they grab dessert, all these sort of things, and how kind of conscientious everyone else is of what the other people are doing. And it's a really interesting just social observation, because some people really care a lot, and they'll have to make comments about why they're not getting dessert, or why they got more vegetables or different things, when really nobody gives a shit. Yeah. Right. But there's this weird shame thing when you're in that group of people that
well, it's because they're all just a day before made their.
Well, it's because if you're in GoBundance, you just have the identity of health being a pillar.
Yeah.
And so when you're there surrounded by the same people, you can't just be like, I'm getting, the worst food that could have possibly imagined. It just doesn't feel genuine.
Yeah. And I went there and I ate dessert all 3 days and it was delicious.
Yeah.
I always eat those little hotel desserts. They're great. You get 3 different kinds. It's my style, little tapas. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, dude.
Alcohol is another big thing there. People will be like, I have been sober for 15 years. And I'm like, bro, I just saw you throw back 3 tequilas, whatever's last night.
I know. Yeah.
That's bad.
The thing is too, depending on who you're with, sometimes the best socializing that happens is at the bar. You get into the most in-depth conversations with people. It's a social lubricant, so people get a little bit more open with stuff.
100%. That's why I never do the events. They're like, are you going to do breath work at 5 a.m.? I'm like, no. I'm going to be trying to sleep this off.
Yeah. But I know one day I went to lunch and we went to this really awesome place and they had this really awesome cocktail menu. And I'll be honest, I succumbed to the social pressure and I did not order a delicious Bloody Mary that the lady across the road from me had.
Why? Because nobody else was doing it?
Because I was the only one. Everyone was like, water, don't drink. I'm like, oh, fuck, fine. I guess I'll have.
See what's funny? If they would have started with you to order and you ordered Bloody Mary, I bet other people around the table would have gotten a Bloody Mary.
Guarantee it. They were waiting.
But because whoever went first got the water, you know, that's how it works.
You're not wrong, dude.
I live my life by, you know what? I don't care what other people are doing. I'm just going to go all in. If I'm a person, I don't drink alcohol a lot or in excess, but I'm also the person that will drink it when it's the most inopportune time. And I'm feeling like having a cocktail. It's not the right time to do it, but I'm going to do it because I want one.
I will say for me, as intrinsically an introverted person, if I do have to be socialized for the extension, like an extended period for the day, it does make it more enjoyable and easier. And I find that I do have better conversations because I'm just a little bit more loosened up.
Yeah.
Like when we were at the private lending conference in Las Vegas, we went out with those bankers and we both got drinks at lunch. Dude, that was like the best day. That was like the main networking day.
Yeah, that was a good day.
It was a strong drink. I was like a little bit just like, lubed up for the rest of the day.
And these bankers are all wired tight, not in their suits and stuff, Like, come on, guys.
Especially with the bankers, man. You got to get the bankers the drinks. Like, let me buy you a drink, bro.
Well, they will later in the day sometimes, but...
Yeah, the bankers are stuffy, but the other private lending folks aren't.
Yeah, the other private lending folks are definitely not, dude. They were like, we went to that one in Newport Beach. Dudes were getting freaking wasted.
Ooh, that was like awesome. We're like, this is our crowd.
So this is why we're meant to be finance, not real estate guys.
Nobody there is worried about what they're drinking or eating.
No, at all. But outside of that, though, it was a solid conference. It was really interesting to see. So in GoBundance, you have to have I think it's $2 million net worth to join now. And a lot of people have businesses. And so they're all generally higher income, higher net worth people. It was really interesting to hear the variation on like market sentiment and then also to just like general situation that's happened over the last 12 to 15 months there, 12 to 18 months rather. Because when I joined in 2021, everyone was kind of on like the same track of where you were kind of like invincible, marketing, all sort of stuff. And in the last year, stuff has really separated. And so many people are like super bullish. So many people are super bearish on like the market. There's not really a lot of people that are like in the middle. People tend to be very extreme one way or the other. And then same with their businesses. A lot of people either crushed it last year or a ton of people did really, really bad. And not even like, it's kind of just whatever. Like they like lost their asses. And the difference in those people, I would say typically are around how they have built their business. If it's dependent on the broader market, they tended to fail. If it was focused on like creating value or like actually having something to offer versus just like accumulating assets or doing different things, they tended to do a lot better. And something else that I think is pretty interesting is over the last number of years, residential real estate has kind of been shit on by the big like multifamily, the commercial, industrial kind of folks, because it's, even Brandon Turner is very famous for this. Like, I wish I'd gone bigger sooner. Mm-hmm. All the bigger sooner guys that started in like 21, 22 are completely cooked.
Yeah.
All the residential guys are doing just fine.
Yep.
And it was kind of interesting to see that. And then I'm generally a bear on the market right now. You guys listen to the show at all, you would know that. Even more so after going to this event exclusively because the only thing that all like the bullish people on the market would say is with how high the stock market is and all of the money coming from AI, there was this report that just came out that said $300 billion is going to go back into the economy. Right. And they kept saying this shit over and over. And the reason that made me even more of a bear is I realized how they just don't understand that that's not going to go to the buying population of your houses. That's not going to go to the general population. That's going to go to the shareholders and the CEOs and everything else. So I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. But they latched onto that.
The build out is for like industrial commercial properties, not residential. And not to get on a tangent away from you, but all the AI build out, it's usually bad for the residential neighborhood, at least now, because it increases the electric prices of all the surrounding neighborhoods because of the data.
That's a big problem.
The power that it needs. So yeah. Sorry, go on.
And there's a lot of infrastructure changes that have happened because of that too. I was actually just talking to my father-in-law, and he was saying that in Montana, where he lives, it's a really big problem because out there's a ton of land, and there's relatively cheap power. So they've been building a lot of these data centers out there for AI, and it's actually they don't got that much power there though, unless they go coal, baby. Exactly. And that's the problem.
Get rid of all those Democrats. We can have some real power around here. Solar power is trash, dude.
Well, yeah. Why do you think all the AI people are on, Trump's side right now? They recognize that. They're
exactly. They realize they're like, shit, this ain't gonna work.
They're like, actually, I don't give a fuck about the penguins.
They're like, actually, I like money more than I do the environment.
Well, that Davos event just happened, the World Economic Forum. And like last year, the past couple of years, it was all about climate change. There wasn't a fucking peep of that this year because they're like, the agenda changed.
Greta wasn't even invited, I bet.
Yeah, not at all.
It's because that's honestly, I feel like climate change is a privilege, right? To honestly, be able to worry about something like that.
To care about it.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody has the privilege right now. We've got so many crazy world politics going on.
Well, everyone's like, stop letting cows fart or whatever for like all this like CO2 emission. But then if you ever look at the energy output between every developed world and China. China's literally like 20x.
Oh yeah.
Like anybody else. So like just the Pareto's principle of 80-20, like you're not going to make any effect unless China decreases their output, and that's not going to happen.
I would say it's a privilege to care about that on a personal level, right? Because you don't have to worry about anything else in like the hierarchy of needs, right?
No, it's a privilege level because how many people in Africa care about it that are in third world countries? They don't give a shit.
They don't. That's what I'm saying.
Wealthy governments tend to do that, or I shouldn't say wealthy governments. Governments without too much to worry about really start caring about it.
Well, see, this is where our political spectrums change, because I think that as a wealthy government, you have a global responsibility to worry about climate change.
A responsibility, but that's a responsibility comes with privilege, right?
The responsibility comes with choice. Like the U.S. government could choose to care more about it. They just do not, because they care more about the finance and the bottom line.
I don't think that's completely true. I just think that right now is not the time to be worried about that. Like there's so many other things that are number one. That's why Davos is like, all these world leaders are like, actually, we should probably be worried about people bombing our countries and the crazy economy going on.
Yeah. From the broader scheme, what are the most immediate concerns is one point. But I don't want to get too off track because I know Mike had another point to this, but like I follow this guy pretty closely. His name's Luke Groman, and he had his report last Friday that was really good. But it basically is just like, if all this AI CapEx spending is true and like it goes on this trend, the United States doesn't have near the infrastructure that it requires from a grid standpoint.
No, not even close.
Electricity standpoint, nat gas, like
the regulations are too hard to get to it in any reasonable amount of time.
The regulations, but also just like rare earths, like all this stuff that the materials that you need are produced by somebody else.
Yeah. China has like whatever amount of the known reserves, a high percentage.
And then the other point to this though is like, okay, let's say we identified the problem. We don't have the skilled labor that we used to have, and the timeline to do all this build out. Like when they did the original infrastructure, takes decades. So like you can't say you can fix this problem in 1 to 2 years. You just can't.
Well, this is the challenge I think with modern society is, regardless of where you are on the totem pole, whether you're a homeless person or you're the president of the United States, you're a world leader, our brains have all been rewired with how fast the current information feedback loop is, right? And the problem is not only is it very, very quick, but it's now so spread out. And so like that person that's at the bottom of the totem pole is so far away from the president. And like, even though it technically should be closer because stuff goes so fast, but there's so many ways for things to get skewed along the way. And so it makes it so that people, like, they always expect things to be able to happen faster or be more immediate or like affect less people or go exactly their way, or their views are more universally shared than they actually are, because that's kind of what the internet has done. Michael Durant was one of the keynote speakers at this event. And if you guys don't know who he is, he was one of the helicopter pilots that was shot down in Somalia. They're in Black Hawk Down. And so if you guys have seen the movie, he's actually the guy.
He's also captured.
He's the guy that gets kidnapped and captured. That's kind of like the basis for that whole thing, right? So he's like a, U.S. hero, like very, very well-spoken person. And he had a very fascinating talk. But the whole premise of his talk, how it relates to business, is he talked about basically the feedback loop, and why Somalia happened was such a disaster was because you had the people that were on the ground, the tip of the spear, that were relaying information. And by the time it got passed from person to person to the top of the pyramid, right, it was good news. And so the whole point of the talk when it relates to business is the person who's at the top should be talking down to the tip of the spear on a regular basis to get the actual news of what's going on. Because as an organization gets larger, everyone wants to be doing good at their job. And the best way to be good at your job is to tell the next person up that things are going well. And so the game of telephone basically just gets like overly optimistic.
Especially when there's a lot of bureaucracy, like in the government.
Especially when there's a lot of bureaucracy. And the problem is now that's happened even more significantly because of the rate that things go through, and there's less time for real information to get passed. Right. And so, I don't know what so when it goes to like the climate change or different things, you're right, is they've had to pass all these things as if it's something that's going to happen in like the next year, like the changes they're going to try to make, when realistically it's going to take 10, 20, 30, 50 years to do a lot of the shit they're trying to do.
Right. Well, and the argument with that is like, should we care about that or should we care about today, right? Is the AI frontier more important today than the environment in 50 years? Maybe. I don't know.
The flip side of that is we should have been worrying about this raw material, raw earth stuff, this infrastructure thing decades ago. Like we haven't actually meaningfully built out any infrastructure in decades.
It's because we operate on a 4-year schedule, right?
So like this is a Republican and Democratic problem that no one has had the foresight to make this a priority in decades.
Yeah.
Well, and this is why China, even though we won't admit it yet, is now the world's #1 superpower, right? Is because they did do that. And so they got into Africa, they got into the Middle East, they got into South America, and they started doing these things to control the rare minerals.
You know what they don't have yet, though, is oil. Like US, we're capitalizing that market still.
Yeah, we have oil, but we don't have like one belt, one road for China. Like to Mike's point, like we actually rely on China for a lot of the stuff to even build out an oil infrastructure. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah. I mean, they have a foothold in a lot of that because they started doing that a long time ago. So when I went to Southern Africa in 2022, we went to Namibia, which was a country that became independent in the 90s, right? So like super recent, and they had nothing. Now it was like generally a very modern country by all intents and purposes, especially for Africa. And one of the reasons that happened is when they broke off from South Africa, China came and said like, hey, we will give you a modern infrastructure like in the next couple of years, we'll build you roads, we'll build you sewer systems, we'll do electricity, we'll do everything. All you have to do is just give us all of your rare minerals forever. And Namibia, who at that point was a bunch of people like living in huts, was like, done, let's do it, right?
Sounds good.
And so, they basically just handed all that over. And so now it has like the super awesome thing. And the funny thing with China, because they're bastards, the way that they solved another problem for them is like, yeah, we'll give you all this work, all these workers to do all this stuff. But how we're going to do is we're going to take all of our prisoners that we don't want and we're just going to ship them to live there now.
Nice.
So they got rid of all their undesirable individuals and sent them to Africa.
Can't blame them.
But they did that all over the world. And so then now they have the advantage there.
Yeah. The U.S. has been doing that too. We just build military bases.
Yeah.
We're more on the defense, I guess.
Well, totally. Well, military bases but that gives like a defense strategy, right? It's not like the more like bigger picture economic strategy.
Yeah. We're the police force and the defenders of the free world kind of concept is what it's been for decades. And now you got to see what makes sense going forward.
Yeah. Well, I know you won't relate to this comment, Dan. Dylan, have you ever played, you a gamer at all? Did you ever play Civilization?
Not Civilization, but I played a lot of like PlayStation and stuff when I was young.
Yeah. So Civilization, basically, it's like a world leader game, and you can have like an economic victory, a military victory, a diplomatic victory. You can win the space race, whatever. And basically, the U.S. is always focused on more the military victory, where you have like the strongest army and the highest potential to basically strike or wreak havoc or whatever, or you get people that are in debt with you because they rely on your defense. China is definitely much pushed more towards that economic victory because of how they focus on production, right? And being able to make everyone reliant on them because of the economic output that they have.
Which is so different because like the Gilded Age of America, the Industrial Revolution, is we were the net producers and we've slowly become a more financialized economy.
We're a net consumer 100%.
Where the net international investment position is like literally a negative like 30% on net from other countries.
So part of that reminds me of kind of like the production is it could be that could change potentially with robotics and AI coming out, and like whoever wins that kind of race, I guess is what they're calling it, but like whoever gets there.
This is such a great transition. I'm sure you guys saw this yesterday about Tesla shutting down their car production to build robots.
Yeah, they're not producing their premium, like what the S and the X, which are like their premium lines. Yeah. They're stopping that. Well, that I don't think anybody's dropping $100-something grand on a battery car anymore. They will drop whatever it is for the Model 3, which is like the cheap version.
Yeah. But the fact that they're moving entirely towards building robots is crazy. Something that hasn't even been adopted by society. Like, what are these robots even going to do?
What do you think, dude? I guarantee they're going to do some badass shit.
A fucking iRobot. They're going to be out there cracking skulls in Minneapolis, dude.
They're going to have an army, dude.
That's why when I talk to ChatGPT, I say thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I think with anything Elon says, he's always kind of pushing it as like it's not gonna like come true when he says it is. Like he's like next end of like 2027, there'll be full production. Everybody will be able to buy one. Probably not likely.
Yeah, I mean, he said full autonomous driving by like 2020,
right?
Like back when, but his timeline's usually short, but he's usually right.
Yeah, it's usually short, but whatever. He's pushing the boundaries on that stuff, but like ramping down the car production, and so they're going to use those assembly lines for these robots, and they're already using them in their plants. So then they'll be able to use, produce more robots. My guess is it's the first wave is like industrial, which to your point, Dylan, to oppose your point is like, there's no way for us to build this stuff out. Well, what if you have robots and AI doing things and building that skill set as opposed to training human beings? That could be like the next race is you got to get there so that you can build that stuff out.
I think it's a step up, Dan, but I guess my counter argument would be like, you don't even have the materials to make the robots. Not at scale.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that you don't have the materials. You just have to go somewhere else to buy them.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, we even with our military weapons, we rely on China for a lot of that stuff. So like,
you could just take Greenland over.
There's only so much tick for tat you could do when you rely on someone else for so much.
Yeah.
Right.
So they use those robots in their factories right now?
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not like, it's not like their full production line, but that's where they're using them. Their use case and testing them.
Amazon just laid off like 30,000 workers and a lot of its warehouse jobs.
Yeah.
Because they have those like little robots. They're like little mini pallet jacks.
Yeah. Yeah. And they move around
that you can go do all the storage around. Yeah.
Yeah. They've had those for a long time. Like when I worked at Boeing, that's how a lot of parts were transported around, is they had these little droids that would like either it was small parts or like even entire wings, they would autonomously move from station to station. And then basically what they would do is they would become like the work platform that the work was done on, which was actually pretty cool. Right. But like when it comes to like these robots, these are like humanoid robots. Like, are they like walking around like screwing in shit? Like, I don't know. Like, I haven't seen this.
I don't know what they're actually doing, but they can. I've seen the videos of them.
Yeah, they're Boston Labs or something like that. Like they're the ones that have like
Boston Dynamics.
Yeah, Boston Dynamics. They're the ones that's like the premier one.
Yeah, but that's like old. They've had like that weird dog that like kick over and it's like a deer slipping on ice. Nothing's ever come of it. Yeah,
nothing's ever come of it, right? Yeah, I think the one thing that I remember from Elon saying about the approach he's taking or that Tesla's taking with the robots is that they are building it not to do superhuman things, but to do human things so it can fit in and use the same tooling that humans are using. So the robotics that have been in factories before have been tooled and built around like that robot, right? So everything has to get built around this special robot arm that moves. Well, their approach has been build this robot that fits into the existing environment and works with existing tools and existing factories. And so then, of course, with AI, they can now program that thing to probably, I'm guessing, learn at a high rate and a high pace. You don't have to manually program it. It can teach itself.
Well, the whole point, I think, is just like with the early Tesla cars is the more that we put out, the more data that we'll get back and the quicker it'll teach itself. So the first ones, they'll probably suck, but they get exponentially better just from being out and learning from its own mistakes.
And one thing that like of that learning curve that I think, and I don't know how it happens, but I think that the energy requirement to power what they're saying is required. It's too steep. It's not possible. And what China's doing, which is like bringing on all these coal plants and gas fire plants and doing all that stuff, I don't think that's a good strategy for them either. I think what's going to happen is capitalism and people are going to be forced to figure out how to reduce the energy draw.
Energy draw or energy breakthrough, like something like the fusion technology.
I don't even think that's not even like, I mean, physics or physics, right? And I think that money is more powerful than physics in the sense of like what will drive the innovation. Physics won't necessarily have to do it. I think with a lot of things, we think, oh, this is how it has to be because this is all we see. We see these big power intensive chips and farms and plants. Well, what if you just needed less of those or the software required? The software is so much more efficient that it didn't rely on the edges of the physics, right? So it pulled back the requirement of the physical world.
So two things. I think you should look up modular nuclear reactors because I think those will be a big thing in the future. Mm-hmm. They're pretty green and they have pretty much infinite energy. That's a more regulation problem.
But it has nuclear in it, so people won't ever like it.
It has a bad stigma. Yeah. I think we'll get away from that. But a second thing, not to go off topic, but Bitcoin mining is actually a good solving for a lot of these energy grid problems. But
it's all about Bitcoin, Dylan.
How is it a solution?
Are you saying that because those are energy intensive, the mining operations?
So Bitcoin usually uses the least like stranded energy a lot. Think of like solar or wind or hydraulic at like dams or whatever. Mm-hmm. It can go out in the middle of nowhere and use energy that normally wouldn't have been used for anything. And the more that you can set these up all over the nation, it's a load response. So right now there's a lot of Bitcoin mining in Texas.
Yep.
And they use a lot of that. But a lot of the times when like we just had this cold that came in, they actually shut down the Bitcoin mining, can give that energy back to ERCOT or the grid at a cheaper price than it normally would have been.
You want to know a big reason why that is because Texas is unregulated.
Sure.
So Texas was one of the few states that's unregulated. So they allow for it. That's innovation, right? Allowing for people to do that. Where other states are so highly regulated, it's hard to, they're trying to do that stuff, but it's hard to get through the regulators who don't really know shit.
Right. So think if let's say you're planning a town. I'll try to be short with this, and in 30 years from now, you're going to want a big hospital that's going to come in, right? Well, you have to build that infrastructure for the electric and the gas and the plumbing, all of that pretty much today, even though you don't know what the next 20 to 30 years look like. So if you can build around already developed cities with Bitcoin mining and increase your energy load just from having those there, and they don't even have to do the mining. They just can act as an extra power source for the grid at that point in time. So it's more of a stabilization effect.
You're saying because the Bitcoin mining operation is bringing its own generation with it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the tough thing about anything with you're talking like microgrids and stuff is you still have to have grid connectivity for the resiliency, just the way it works.
And all of that has to have a build out, but I guess there are I guess probable solutions to this.
Thinking of it as a battery, right? That's where you're going to think of it as.
I think the challenge is, like you said, it's supposed to have build out, but we currently have a generation that's coming in with no skills, no blue collar, anything. We're getting rid of all the immigrants, and we just got a bunch of TikTokers that are
that is a problem,
jam, dude.
That is a problem. I just had a 20-year-old come in to the office. I'm in the new office today, first podcast from the new office.
Oh, nice.
And he was promising on Messenger because he was looking for a job. I don't say he was dumb. I don't have to say it.
I mean, dude, I get it, man. We've had a lot of interviewees that are young people or even employees, and you're saying, I just don't understand what your situation is. Yeah.
Here's what I don't get. I have college students as tenants in some of my houses, right? And they go to a private school. So the threshold to get in or the hurdle to get in, you got to have, not just money, but you got to be somewhat smart, right? You got to
have a daddy that gets you in there. Yeah.
It's not the community college. Let's just say that much, at least. It's not just going to college, right? They are not smart, and their communication, or lack thereof, they all, every time I go to text them, they all have silence notifications on. I'm like, what are you doing? How are you communicating with your friends?
You got to Snapchat them. I think that's the cool way to do it now.
It's 3 days later, they'll text back. I'm like, what have you been doing?
Yeah.
You text me first.
I mean, obviously our sample size is really low, but I've not been impressed by a younger person in a long time.
Our individual sample sizes are really low. The general sentiment, though, is very much the same across a wide sample size of people that I've talked to, heard from, everything else.
I mean, I do remember coming into the workforce after leaving the military and hearing kind of the older folks talk about millennials, and they're they talk a lot of shit about millennials. They did.
They did. Yeah, totally. It's funny. I saw on Reddit today. It was
are we those people now though?
This Times article came out 13 years ago, and it was talking about the fluffy millennials. Mm-hmm. But the difference is that millennials, what they didn't like about the workplace, they're very sensitive, right? So they wanted people to be nice. They wanted things ordered a certain way, right? They didn't like the fact that the hierarchy of things didn't always make fundamental sense, because you'd have somebody that didn't fucking do shit that for some reason was your boss, and you're like, what is this? Mm-hmm. But millennials in general were still very productive, right? Now we don't even necessarily see that, because the current group of people coming in has been they've had so much brain rot for such a long time, from a very young age, that they never even kind of develop a work ethic, right?
Yeah.
They don't actually have a desire to collaborate and do things. Whereas at least when we were growing up, you still had to you learned how to work with different people. You had to do group projects. We all had to go sit in the library and fucking write out our, bibliography on shit.
We didn't have ChatGPT.
We didn't have nothing like that. Yeah.
Answers to get stuff automatically without having to think about it.
In high school, I remember having papers where we weren't allowed to use the internet. All of our sources had to be from books.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
So I'd be in the library looking at books that was written in 1979 that for some reason was a more valid source than Wikipedia.
Yeah, Wikipedia was big.
I know, that was...
Yeah, oh yeah, it was you can't use Wikipedia. Don't quote that as a source. Just learning how to quote using the APA and all the other bullshit, like the citation stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I forget what the format was. Yeah.
But even going through that, it gives you this ability to learn how to produce something. And now that's very much lost unless you're one of those kids that actively sought that out, right? Because unless you were like a hobbyist producer, it's like a young kid, like you were into crafts or like you fucking built shit or you did whatever with your parents or whatever. They aren't forced to do any of those things anymore.
Yeah. I'm very conscious with my kids. If I'm going to go do something, I try to be like, come with me and watch me do this, even though they maybe don't want to. But I'm like, hey, I'm going to change the tire on my truck. You're going to come watch me.
But you know what? Like you say, even if they don't want to, especially your son with his age, I bet he's always down to do whatever right now.
Yeah, Cole's down to do whatever. I'm like, hey, you want to go for a ride? He's like, yeah, let's go.
I think that's the default state of young people. And the problem is when they get pushed into kind of like that brain rot sort of culture that goes away.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not always like that. So at the GoBundance event, one of the speakers was a daughter of a member. She's 20. And she did a keynote talk on this company that she's built. It's called Thrivable.
Oh, yeah.
And it is like basically like a GoBundance for kids, right? It's like $2,000 a year. She's up to like 60 members. She's like traveling. She's doing all this stuff.
She's killing it.
Dude, I'm not even kidding. It was probably the best talk of the entire event. Like the subject matter was, on her stuff, which was fine, but the actual presentation was awesome. The way that she spoke, like how it was presented, how she built the story, all sort of things. And she's 20 years old. And I was like, this gives me a lot of hope that the young people aren't all lost, because she's like a rock star, but she was also such a rare case, it seems like, and she's from a family that is high income, high net worth. And so she's had an extremely unfair advantage over the average person to get into that position. And I think that that's probably the biggest risk that we have right now is basically productivity has become, or like the ability to be productive has become like a privilege, right? Because it requires a family and parents that's able to sort of put you in that situation to not just put you through whatever public school. And that's where we're going to have a really big problem. We're talking about building out AI infrastructure and all sort of shit. Is I just don't know how we catch up with that.
Mike, you want to go a fun stat and then we'll move on to talking shit about people. The number one indicator of a kid's future earnings is what zip code they were born in.
Oh yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah. Or their future success. I mean, it makes sense.
Yep. And most of them are, I think 5 of the 8 are within a 50-mile radius of Washington, D.C.
That's crazy. I'm not surprised with that at all. That's like that's one of the highest income parts of the country.
Yeah. It's a per capita. I think Dan over there thinking it's like a per capita thing. But yes.
No, I was just saying, you're saying the 5 zip codes?
Yeah. So the most per capita in the United States, 5 of them are within Washington, D.C. Oh. You'd think it'd be like LA County or not. It's not. It's outside of Washington, D.C.
Just how you define success, Dylan.
I know. Totally. Which is also valid. And if you ask Gen Zs how they define success is making $560,000 a year. That's what that stat said when they said, like, what did they deem to be a good salary? And well, also, which to be fair, a lot of them probably have like friends.
Honestly, you need more than that.
That figured out how to like make money on TikTok, right? And do that. And the problem is that they don't understand what that fully entails either,
The number one, actually a good indicator of the, the good times, like the 2020, 2021 thing is, I'm pretty sure when I joined GoBundance, the member was like 200, maybe 300. Mm-hmm. I think it's like it got up to like 1,000 during those years because of all of the built-in equity that people got, from that stuff.
Yeah. Now it's down to 700.
Well, and that peak too, and go from a GoBundance standpoint, was Brandon Turner's peak time too. And so he was a big advocate for GoBundance, and that was very specific to real estate guys, which happen to also be syndicators. Mm-hmm. And they're all just trying to syndicate from each other.
Yeah, dude. He had to start, getting those referral commissions to pay for all of his deals that were collapsing.
There's no way that he paid a GoBundance membership after his first year.
God, no. Dude. God, no. Dude, his stuff, I sat next to somebody that's very much inside that whole group. I'm not going to say his name because you guys would definitely know who he is. But he's, he was like, he's been on the show. He's like very much involved in that whole thing. And I was like, so what's like the real deal with Brandon's stuff? And he was telling me kind of like how completely screwed all these deals are. He's had to sell off all his assets, all these kind of things to try and bail himself out. And now he is 100% just like obsessed with his better life thing. And I guess a big part of that is because
that still exists.
It still exists. And I guess someone has like convinced him that if he builds it to a certain level, he'll be able to sell it for like $100 million or something.
Oh boy.
And so he's like just fixated with this. But I guess it's gotten so out of hand that, how like for like a while there was kind of like his posse, like just like random people, like that tatty investor girl and like some of these random people that were like always for some reason like doing shit together. all those people have like left his circle because of how kind of like toxic it was getting around trying to grow it. He was trying to like leverage all these other people's communities to just bring people into his better life thing. Because he like is, I don't think he's a bad person, but I think that what has happened is he has really paid a price for his first mover advantage with real estate and podcasts with bigger pockets, where it's given him kind of like false confidence on the ability to produce, right? And he has an audience, there's no doubt about it. I do think he's a smart dude. But I think that like all the setbacks he's had over the past couple of years have created this sense of, or I guess this like lack of belief again, where he feels like he needs to have a moonshot now to catch up.
Yeah. Like he felt like, what do you think it was like? He felt like he was up here. Now he's down here. Now he needs to.
Now he's like, it's like, I need to get back to like the big money again. Cause I remember him being on Ryan Pineda's podcast a couple years ago. And he told Ryan Pineda he spends like $80,000 a month.
That's wild.
Right. And then Ryan's like, bro, that's fucking a lot. And then Brandon's like, well, you know, if I need to make some money, he's like, I can make $1 million in a weekend if I like launch a new product.
Which back then he could.
Now he can't do that anymore. And I guarantee you that his overhead hasn't shrunk that much.
Yeah.
But that whole thing, man, I don't know. The guy I was eating with was sharing some of these details on just like some of the stuff that's gone down and sort of like the general attitude and things that exist. And I'm like, I feel like the entire Bigger Pockets crowd is kind of just like I don't know, the worst of the worst kind of people that are battling for relevance.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like I think there's the actual true institution of Bigger Pockets, which are like the hierarchy of that and all the people that they brought in since like Brandon and Josh and now, you know, David Green, all those guys have left. I think that's a rot in itself. And then you have all the people that are like the pseudo Bigger Pockets folks that are being around like Brandon and some other people. And they're just all about Instagram photos of what they're doing. And I don't know that any of them have any businesses that they're promoting or doing anything. It's just about being part of that group. And then it's that
their highlight is their Instagram reel of sharing a podcast with them.
Right. And that conference, that once you're on that conference circle, is like, hey, you come to this conference, I'll give you a piece of it. The more people, you know, good looking people, famous people, you get them on there. They don't actually have anything they're producing, but they're going to a conference to talk about it. And then they're going to get a piece of that pie. Like it's like a weird circle.
And not only that, but like a lot of them need that to work because of all the shit that they're in from the other stuff they've done, like on sideways. So we have a Scale member, Alex, we had on the show, not like, I don't know, a couple months ago. He said that he was going through his pre-foreclosure list in the Bay Area. Guess who had multiple properties that were on there?
Yeah, David Green.
Mr. David Green.
Yeah,
he's a mess, dude.
He's a fucking mess. Like,
I got to bounce, boys, but keep talking about this one because, he's a nightmare.
Yeah, no worries. Well, we'll wrap it up here. Dan's got to go and something at his kid's school. So have fun. Tell him to say hello.
All right. See you, boys.
All right. Cool. Right on, everybody. Well, thanks for listening. You guys have a great rest of your week. And we'll talk to you guys next time.
See ya.
This episode is sponsored by Sir Lancelot LLC, also known as SLA Capital, which, if you didn't know, is Dan and I's private lending company. So yes, we are sponsoring our own show, but what you going to do about it? It is our private lending company that offers hard money and DSCR loans to real estate investors of all types. So you can be a new investor, an experienced investor. You can be buying flips. You can be buying rentals, whatever. We can do everything. And not only that, but the rates that we offer are just as competitive, if not cheaper, than pretty much every other company out there. So whatever big company you've been working with, bring us their term sheets and I guarantee that we can probably beat it. We have the same connections they do. We just don't have all the overhead and middlemen. So if you want to come and check us out, go to slacapital.com/keys and I will know that you came from the show. And by seeing that you came from here, when you get to closing, you will save $500 on your first loan with us. So slacapital.com/keys, we would love to fund your next deal. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you want more from us, you can shoot us a follow on Instagram. I am at Mike_invest. Dan is at InvestorMan Dan. And Dylan is at Dylan_does_deals. Shoot us a follow and send us a DM to let us know what you think of the show.